I am here at AwesomeCon 2015 with Jess Harnell, amazing voice actor.
God bless you.
Love you to death.
Love you back.
And I just want to do, we got about 10 minutes, so we're going to run down. Okay. First of all, you're from New Jersey, aren't you?
Yeah, I was born in New Jersey.
That's awesome.
Englewood, New Jersey. Then from there I moved to Philadelphia. And I lived there for a while. Then I moved to LA and I became a dude, and I've been a dude ever since.
Well, that's awesome. I'm actually from New Jersey, so.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Go, homie.
So now, as a kid, what kind of performing stuff did you do when you were younger? How did you get into what you do now, and how did you kind of have that interest?
I was always fascinated by voices from the time I was a little kid, and I used to watch people on TV and imitate them. I imitated family members and stuff like that. And my first big show business job was there was a movie called Oliver, which was based on Oliver Twist.
Sure.
And there was a character named the Artful Dodger in this show, and he had a great song called Consider Yourself, and I went and saw that movie over and over, and then I heard they were casting for the local Broadway production of that in my town.
Oh, cool.
And I auditioned for the part of the Artful Dodger. This is before they had touring companies that went all over the country, and I got that part, and I was only like 8 years old, and so I got to sing and do a British accent, and all the stuff I ended up doing later anyway. And then from that I ended up getting my own show called the Jess Harnell Show, which was a local access show in Philadelphia.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't either, man. I they don't have. I think it was before they started saving stuff, so I wish I had a video of it, but I don't. But it was awesome, and I knew that I loved doing this stuff.
And how old were you with that show?
I was like 8.5, 9.
Wow.
Did it till I was like 9.5. Then we moved to California not long after that, and I thought I was going to be an actor until I realized that you could have cooler hair and more dates if you were in a band, and I became a rock singer.
That's awesome. And now your dad has a musical history to it too, right?
Yeah.
Tell us
My
a tiny
dad.
bit about that.
In fact, it's a funny kind of a tie-in because my dad was a composer for a lot of great TV shows. And now I do these cons and I meet people like Lou Ferrigno and I say, you know, my dad did the music for The Incredible Hulk. And he gets very choked up because he loves the music. And I met Lindsay Wagner for the first time in, 30 years the other day. And The Bionic Woman, my dad did the music for that show as well. So he did a lot of great music and he played piano for everybody from Frank Sinatra to Barbra Streisand and you name it. He was a very talented guy.
So you grew up in a performing household.
Oh yeah, very musical.
That's great.
My mom was and is a great singer, you know, and I learned to sing from my mom. And,
that's great.
Very
so now from going into, you know, the band and everything, now of course your main thing is voice acting. And so how did you end up doing, like, getting an agent, getting into voice acting? I do know that you started out with the Disney rides and everything, but how did you end up with the agent? Because that's tough for some people to find.
It's very tough. I was so blessed, Emily, because what happened was I did the Splash Mountain ride for Disneyland. That's what you're referring to.
Yes.
I was a studio singer, and I sang a lot of jingles. And a guy I sang jingles for was doing the music for Splash Mountain at Disneyland. And he said, I can get you an audition. I know you do these voices all the time. Let me get you an audition. And I said, cool, man. So he brought me in, and I auditioned. I watched the Song of the South, and I learned how to do Brer Rabbit and Brer Bear and everybody. And I got these voices, and it was great. And I went from doing that, I just went right back into being a studio singer. I just thought, oh, that was cool money, and I'll be on a ride at the park, and that's awesome. But it never occurred to me that I could make a living at it. Well, when I went to do the one for Disney World, there's a guy named Rick Dempsey, and he's the head of the Disney Character Voices division for Disney. And they make sure that the characters maintain their integrity and all this. They don't say things that they wouldn't say. Very cool. And we became friends.
They don't say anything that Captain Hero would say.
They don't say anything that Captain Hero would say ever. But anyway, Rick was instrumental because he wrote a letter that I'll never forget. I mean, it was so nice of him to do this. And all you actors out there know how hard it is to get a good agent. Well, Rick wrote a letter that he sent personally to the top 5 agencies in LA. And he said, I'm here to tell you, he goes, you guys all know who I am. If you don't sign this guy to your agency, you're going to regret it for the next 40 years. That's what the letter said.
So it was like winning the lottery except with talent.
God bless you. But
no,
talent,
totally.
You know, talent is like such. It's sweet of you to say that, but whenever anybody makes a big deal about my talent or anybody's talent, the important thing to remember is that everybody has talents. You know, some may be more fun at parties. Sometimes you get inordinately rewarded for your talent, but that doesn't make it more valuable than somebody else's talent. I was standing online once at a trendy Hollywood nightclub, and I'm, you know, they're choosing people to get in, right? And as I'm standing there waiting to get in, I'm talking to this guy, and he tells me he's working in a laboratory working on cures for cancer. Okay? Well, they came back and they said, okay, Jess, you can come in. And I said, you know what? I want you to give my spot to this guy, because what he's doing is a lot more valuable than me making funny voices. But everybody has talents. So I'm really blessed that my talent the thing that God gave me that I can do has led to me being able to afford to buy shiny hats.
Right?
Because I'm not qualified to do anything, so I'm happy to do it.
Well, and I'll tell you, I think that's amazing that you honor that other work in that way. But I was just conversing with a friend on the podcast that I do about how important humor is to people's state of mind.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that we have a real blessing in, cartoon voiceover, voice actor people who, like you, who have that humor. And can you tell me, with interacting with the fans, have you had any really good interactions with, folks about, like, who've said, like, oh, you changed my life, or, you had, because I've heard some great stories.
No,
so
it's,
do you have any,
beautiful. I mean, every time I do one of these cons, which, I don't do as many of them as some folks do, but I do about 10 a year, and I get to meet thousands of people who like the work that I've done, and my friends like Rob Paulson and Jim Cummings and those people like they've done.
Yeah.
And not one day goes by doing this that somebody doesn't come by and say, my dad was very ill, and every day I would go to the hospital and we would watch Animaniacs, or we would watch The Tick, or we would watch one of the old shows that I worked on, or even recently we'd watch the Transformers, or we'd watch Drawn Together, or whatever the show was, and it was like a bonding time for us, and we looked forward to it, and thank you so much,
Aww.
And I work with, we all do work with sick kids, and a lot of the time we call these kids as our characters and talk to them, and they're always so much braver than I think most of us would be in their circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because at the end of the day, I have a very clear perspective. I realize that in the scope of things, what I'm doing is not changing the world, but if every day that I do work, it ends up making one person's day a little bit better, then that was a good day.
Well, I'll tell you, you always make my day better with the work that you do.
Thank
and
you.
I actually had the
You're
privilege
so
I had the privilege of going with Rob to Children's Hospital here in D.C. So I have seen firsthand how amazing it is. So the kids just love
that's
you
cool,
guys.
Emily,
So
that you did
I
that.
love
That's-
it. Yeah,
yeah.
no, it was fantastic. So speaking of Animaniacs, because you just mentioned that was
just
a big,
mentioned Rob
big,
Paulson.
and Rob Paulson and Tress McNeil
Yeah.
and Maurice LaMarche and everybody, Frank Welker, everybody on that show. So that was a big, big thing in your career.
Yeah.
So I love the story about the Beatles, and could you just run through the four voices for me? Because I love that.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Oh, if you do that.
Well,
that'd be
yeah,
great.
I'd be happy to. The what Emily's talking about is that when I auditioned for Animaniacs, in the process of getting the part of Wakko, who wore no pants, by the way, had nothing to do with me, they asked me if I could do some of my impressions, because I do a lot of impressions. And the first one they wanted was Elvis, and I'm glad it didn't go that way because it would have been really weird. But we did an Elvis thing, and then she said, do one of the Beatles. And I explained to our beloved director, Andre Romano, that the Beatles all sounded very different. To wit, let me show you. First of all, we got John, and John's voice to me always sounded like there was a point on the end of it, like it's very sort of sharp in his nose, when he talks. Then this Paul's voice is more like jovial and more fun, you see. Yeah, great, fab, all that sort of thing. And he's more like back in his throat, a little bit higher pitched, a little bit smokier, you see. But there's George, and George always spoke very slowly, and his words were very measured, and he had this sort of congestion thing to him when he talked, even though he didn't have a cold. And then there was Ringo, and Ringo's down at the bottom. So you see, they're all four very different, and that's the Beatles. And what Wakko ended up being was like a Beatle on helium, because he couldn't have this big deep voice like Ringo or something. So he made his voice very small, and that's how Wakko came about. There you go. Boom.
I love that. Now, you mentioned Andre Romano, who is amazing, fantastic. I've had the pleasure of meeting her.
Yeah.
And you said in an earlier panel that you stole a couple of her Emmys. Is that true?
No, that's not true.
Oh, I wish it was.
I was just playing.
I figured.
Although now, if I'm going to do it, Andre, if any of your Emmys are missing, it wasn't me, although I thought about it. But the point I think I was making up there is that this woman has so many Emmys that if you took a couple, she probably would notice. Because she's got like 36.
I'm guessing you're right. Now,
It's amazing.
that does make me think all of the amazing talent that you work with every day, obviously you are amongst those great people.
I don't
What
know
is it like with the voice actor community versus working with, face actors, as you would say, and with people like Andrea?
That's funny because it's a good question, Emily. I think that we're fond of saying in our little community of voice actors, because there's tons of people who are very good at it. But in terms of the people that work a lot, you generally see a lot of the same faces. I mean, it's just like any industry. I think that, in the soft drink industry, Coke products probably control 90% of that industry, right?
Right.
But with voiceover work, you see the same basic group a lot. And we're always very supportive of each other. We're always very generous with each other. It's like if somebody asks me if I do a certain thing, I'll say, I can do that, but who does that really great is so-and-so. He does it better than I do. Whereas with on-camera actors, I think that maybe sometimes there's a greater sense of insecurity just because they know that so much of what they do is based strictly on physical appearance. I don't mean that necessarily being more beautiful or handsome or anything like that. It's just that your physical type is going to dictate the kinds of roles you get offered.
Sure.
And so it's a much smaller field to choose from than voice actors. Because we can play little kids, we can play, old wizards, we can play dogs, we can play whatever. These guys, if Angelina Jolie goes in to read for an old wizard, she's probably not going to get the part, although she'd be a very sexy old wizard. So you see what I'm saying? So I think that our community is just basically a lot more just chill and fun because we're all basically doing the same stuff we did that got us thrown out of school.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the fact that you can play a variety of parts. So if you don't mind, we're going to run down some of your parts. If you could do a little bit of the voices for some of these.
I'll try. Let's
all right. We're gonna do what we can. We've got. In the cartoons area, we've got Wakko, of course.
Oh yeah, that's this. We've been there already.
And we've got Captain Hero.
Captain Hero from Drawn Together, the worst superhero of all time. Yeah.
And we've got Grimm from the 7D.
Oh, Grimm's just really stupid. Hey, Hildy, I got a new spell. Let's do it.
All right, and then we've got, Roger Rabbit.
Oh, jeepers, I don't know what to say.
Ironhide.
Ironhide of the Transformers, here to save the world.
Chili.
Chili, Doc McStuffins, she's pretty good. Hey kids, how are you?
Cartman.
You guys have totally pissed off her now, sweet.
The Cowardly Lion.
Sure, I will.
Marlin.
Oh, now this is Marlin from Finding Nemo. Have you seen my son? He's here somewhere.
Oh my goodness, and there's so many more. There's a lot of them. I'm trying to think, but you've done
There's
you've
just
done
a
some
bunch,
precious,
man.
amazing
Go
ones for
on
us.
IMDb and you'll see a bunch.
I love that. I love that. So now, what is it like? Because we were talking about voice actors versus face actors. What is it like living in Hollywood as someone who's not immediately recognizable, but has just that amazing talent like everybody else there? And do you have any weird experiences with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the coolest thing about it. It's sort of like being Batman because you're not wearing your costume. And sometimes you'll stand next to people on lines and stuff, and they'll be wearing a T-shirt with one of your characters on it, and they have no idea that they're standing next to you. And I think that's kind of cool.
Do you ever nudge them and go?
No, not really. Because that's too much. Hey, look at me. I don't like that kind of stuff. But I will say that when you're me, as opposed to a lot of my contemporaries, everywhere I go, people just think I'm in Def Leppard or something. So that they're usually more concerned with what band I play in than if I'm a cartoon character.
That's fair. And you do play in a band. So tell us, I know that a lot of people are familiar with Rock Sugar and the basic concept.
The basic concept is that if a heavy metal hair band like Poison or a Bon Jovi or Def Leppard or something got shipwrecked on a desert island in 1989 and had nothing to listen to for 20 years except pop records from the 80s. Then they got rescued and they thought that pop was metal. Okay, to illustrate, so what the band does is the guys in the band will play like a AC/DC song, and I'll sing a Madonna song over the AC/DC song and make it fit. I'll sing a Journey song over a Metallica song and make it fit. Well, the thing took off in such a big way, Emily. It's fantastic because by our third gig, we were playing for 20,000 people. We've got to open for Aerosmith, AC/DC, Linkin Park, Def Leppard, Poison, Kid Rock. You name it, we played on a bill with them. And they all think that our band is so much fun because it is. It's really fun. So if you haven't seen Rock Sugar, go, as soon as this is over, go on YouTube, put in Rock Sugar, check it out. You'll love it. It's really fun. If you liked anything about the 80s, you'll love Rock Sugar.
And as someone who, has people from bands being like, oh, I love you guys, do they also know your work as a voice actor? Do they discover it later? Do you have weird experiences with that?
That's a good question, too. What's really funny is a lot of the people that love Rock Sugar, and there thankfully are many people that love that band, they don't really know this side. And a lot of people from this side don't know that side. So it's really cool because it's like, I'm fond of saying I'm a cartoon rock star because it's like I get to do cartoons and then I get to go play these shows and it's a pretty awesome way to live.
That's really cool. And it's like you, obviously you do so well as a voice actor, you probably don't need a second career like how Rob doesn't need, talking tunes, but he does it. And I love the way that you guys have these kind of dual careers. Do you find that creative people just kind of gravitate towards just doing new projects all the time, or is that something about you?
I think that a lot of people in general, Emily, it's like, I can only speak from my own experience, but it's like, I've never been a person who'd be content with, sitting on the couch and watching the world go by, It's like there's that old saying, there's people who make things happen, there's people who watch things happen, there's people who say, what the hell happened?
Right.
I always want to make things happen. So, and I know Rob's the same way. When we're doing something, even though it's going fantastically well, and hallelujah, and thank you God for the gifts and everything like that, we're always sort of like, well, maybe we can do this too. Let's try to do this too, And so Rob did his talking tunes thing and his coaching stuff, and he goes around. He's invented the Animaniacs live show where we play with symphonies, And I was always like, well, I love rock music. I'll do that. Before that, I produced a movie with Mark Hamill. I've done some really crazy, goofy stuff. But I'm always.
Are you talking about the comic book movie?
Yeah, comic
that
book
thing
movie.
was so great, and you had the funniest line in the elevator.
Which line?
That was the
What was the line?
God, it was the. It was in the elevator with the, was it about monkeys or something?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
I'll have to
One
look
of
it up.
my
It was
favorite
so
lines
funny.
that I loved in that movie is I was talking to somebody. It was all improv. It was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of thing. And my character was great because he was a kind of stoned out cameraman who was into heavy metal and everything. And I remember he invited one of the other guys. He said, "You got to come see my band." And he goes, "Oh, really? What's your band?" And I said, "Oh, it's a tribute to Warrant. It's called Subpoena," which I thought was so great. And the reason I love that so much is because, first of all, if you're going to do a tribute band, don't do a tribute band to Warrant. I mean, I love you guys. You're my buddies. But a tribute band to Warrant, and then the fact that it'd be called Subpoena, and that just occurred to me. That's my favorite.
Well, I'll tell you, as an attorney, I appreciate that as well.
Wow,
because,
cool. Yeah,
because
you're speaking your
I
language.
love that. So, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
First of all, you've done so much. Do you have anything you aspire to do that you like, a specific voice or a particular show that you would love to do?
I would love in my career, I don't think I've been asked this question, in the trajectory of my career, since I couldn't have been one of the Simpsons because that's already cast, the next best thing for me, I've been in a lot of the Disney Pixar movies, like Nemo and all the Toy Stories and Up and Bug's Life and WALL-E, all these great movies. I would love to have a featured role in one of those movies sometimes. I've been, like I said,
I would love to see that happen.
Thank
I
you.
would. I
I've been-
support this.
Yeah, I love that idea, right? I've been in all of them with a few lines here and a few lines there. It'd be so awesome to actually get to be like a featured, character. And I'm hoping that one of these days I will.
My favorite thing is when they do those movies and they put the, as they say, the journeyman voice actors in
Yes.
those big roles, because you guys are the best.
Oh,
You're the
thank
best
you.
at what you do. You do it all the time.
Yeah, they love to use celebs, and I must admit they get some great performances out of those guys. They really do.
Oh, yeah.
But boy, it would be awesome to play like one of the main guys.
Well, I am all about that. So 2 more things real quick. You
Yeah.
ran through in your panel some lessons that you've learned, and if you could kind of go through them for real quick again, things you've learned, or people who want to get into voice acting. You mentioned some ideas for how to get into voice acting.
Oh yeah.
So if you could run through
there's some
those,
wonderful
that'd be great.
resources. People that want to get into voice acting. First of all, they always say how hard it is to break in. I always say I broke in. Billy West broke in, Ron Paulson broke in, Jim Cummings broke in, Tress MacNeille, we all broke in. So it can be done. Don't let the fact that it's hard to achieve your dreams keep you from achieving your dreams. It's that simple. In terms of resources, the best way to learn to be successful is to find out what successful people did and do that same thing. So there are websites like VOBuzzWeekly.com. In-depth interviews with the superstars of the industry, some of which go on for like an hour and a half. I mean, there's so much information, you can't believe it. That's a great one. D. Bradley Baker's website, iwannabeavoiceactor.com. Rob Paulson's Talkin' Tunes podcast. These are like wealth of information. So the thing is, man, if you're serious about it, if you really want to do it, devote the time. Get in front of your computer, put your feet up, put on your onesie or your footy pajamas and a blanket and a notepad or your computer and watch. Don't just say you want to do something. Back it up and learn to do it. And maybe I'll see you in the studio. That'd be awesome.
That's great. Now, about the hair. Best hair care tip you have.
Best hair care tip I have: moisturize.
There you go.
Moisturize, man. I have had long hair since I was a little boy. I don't know what would happen if I cut it, but I'm afraid to find out, so I'm not gonna.
And pick one of your voices and say, thanks for watching Comic Mix.
Okay, this is Wakko from Animaniacs. I love him. He loves you. I just want to say thanks for watching Comic Mix. See you later. Goodbye, nurse.
Bless you, Jess.